Welcome back to KeZaka Stokvel Insights. And now we turn our focus to Sedibeng Society's potential for growth, exploring the benefits of moving from a community burial society to a thriving business. Still with me in studio to provide expert insights is Thabiso Masurubele. Thabiso, before the break, you were giving really some insightful feedback when it comes to leasing your assets and buying and really owning a lot of your equipment when starting a printing business. Now, from your perspective as a consultant, what can Sedibeng do when it comes to handling their finances when it comes to these two entities?
I think one of the things that they really have to think about as we engage them as well is the issue of printing equipment. You know, with smaller equipment, it's easy to make the outright purchase because the costs might not be that high, and they might have the resources to acquire that assets, and the maintenance costs are not that high. But as they grow, as I was saying, they need to think about, you know, do they want to invest a lot of their capital that they have into this equipment, which might put them in a situation where they have less working capital that they can play around with, but they've got the asset, but they don't have the money to maintain the asset, to buy paper, to print, all the requirements to run the business. So the option is then to look at what are the options when you lease the equipment. It's got its advantages. One is that you don't worry about the maintenance costs. And there are costs such as insurance. I mean, you know, when people start businesses, they never think about insuring the assets that you have. And the premiums aren't coming cheap because of the current environment in the country and so on. So when you lease this particular asset, printing equipment, you then know that you've taken care of the issues of the insurance, the maintenance, and which frees up a lot of the capital that you have to put towards your operational costs. But on the other side is that the advantage is that you now have an asset that you can borrow against, that you can use to leverage and raise funds once you own the asset. So that's one of the advantages of owning the asset. So it's about looking at what resources you have and what works better for you. Again, if you've got maybe someone in your stokvel who's familiar with the equipment, then you might look at buying it because the person would then know how to service the equipment and so on. But these are just some of the things that you really have to unpack before you arrive at that decision. So whatever decision you take, we always say there's no wrong decision, provided you've put some thought in it and you've done your research adequately. You then arrive at that decision and it's an informed decision, then you're good to go.
Now let's look at scalability, because right now they are a small printing business. But what happens when there's an influx or bigger commercial contracts as well? How do they tackle that?
Yeah, I think businesses can sometimes become victims of their own success. And what I mean by that is that you've got to, as a business, manage your growth. So, you know, we all want businesses that are thriving and so on, but not many of us think about what it means to maintain these thriving businesses, because increased sales volumes, means there's increase in all sorts of other things. You need to increase the capacity that you have. And that means now you need to start looking at your capacity, human relations, human resource capacity, and your business capacity that you have generally. So it becomes more than just, you've got a printer, you're printing T-shirts, now you've got to do it at scale. So you've got to employ people on a full-time basis. I know with Sedibeng, it's not on a full-time basis. People are coming in and they're able to give people stipends here and there so that they can put food on the table. But once you start scaling it, you then have to make it more formal. So you've got to think about how you register it as a business. And once you have a business, you've got employees. You've got to register those employees. You've got to agree what the payment is for the employees. And because it's run by a stokvel, all of these decisions are taken as a collective. Now, as you'll know, money and decision-making is a process. You can imagine you then have to think about, once a lot of money comes in, everyone in the group now has an interest. Everyone wants to benefit. What does it mean for your decision making? It only makes it that much harder. So we always work with stokvels to say, put in place structures that would enable you to continue to manage your stokvel and your business, even though it is growing. So you first have to make sure that your structure from the get-go is in place and it can deal with the influx of business that comes in. So there's always that side to look at to say, We always look at the business doing well and there's money, but we never look at what it takes to manage that big business and make sure that it is sustainable and it continues to grow and make money.
At what point should they make the decision of, okay, we are ready to scale further up? Because scaling up also involves marketing to different communities as well, and there's already competition with that. But how do they address this matter?
So they look at where they'll make projections. They'll say currently they're printing, I think they printed 4 T-shirts for the crash for one of the members, I think. So they then look at if they're getting orders from within the community. So once your market and your order book starts growing, that's when you start and you look at, is it time now to look at how do we, we've got one machine and that one machine can't deal with the orders that we have. So now we need another machine. Do we buy the same machine or do we buy a bigger machine that can create greater capacity? And that discussion again of a bigger machine, do we lease it, do we not? So their decision will be based purely on the orders that they're getting and the growth that they'll be experiencing themselves. And as they're doing this as well, remember they'll also be we're showing them new markets, the creches, the schools, people are wanting to print all sorts of things. Local businesses want to print flyers and so on. So in that growth, they've got to manage that growth and also make sure that they don't take on jobs that they can't do. Because what you don't want to happen is for them to start taking jobs and not delivering. Because what makes a business thrive is the ability to deliver on your promise. So if you say...
Doesn't that, being able to find suitable candidates towards the business side of things, won't there be a lack in terms of the burial society obligations in that sense?
Yeah, remember I said, so what you then have to look at is if you don't have internal capacity on the business side, you look outside of the organization. So remember I made mention that you can go to a business banker, for instance, or you engage with us as Thai Vision where we're able to say, the burial side of things, you've got capacity there. You've got the chairperson knows how to run a burial society. So the systems and functions in that pillar of the group is sorted. Let's make sure that the other pillar, which is the business, is sorted. Because remember, I think one of the objectives as well, and I think it's a common objective with burial societies, is people want to generate an income and they want it so that they're no longer paying premiums and contributions from their pocket. And with this group in particular, they've got something else to think about, the elderly who aren't covered. So it's not that there is no funeral cover for older people. There is. It's just that it's expensive. So the older you get, the more expensive it is to cover you for funeral or for life for that matter. So as they've started a very good thing of creating an income with this business, as the more that business grows, the more the business will be able to also maybe they can then decide whether the profits or the proceeds from the business go towards paying the premiums. And then you then end up with a situation where people aren't having to cough out of their own pocket. So the income that the business generate, it gives them that benefit of being able to pay the contributions that they need to pay for themselves to be covered. But, according to how they work, they also generate enough just to make sure that people are able to put food on the table and so on.
So basically good governance and constitution will equal to a profitable business that will be able to pay for your own premiums.
100%.
Well, that's it from us for now. If you are part of a stokvel like Sedibeng Society and would like more information on today's discussion or have a topic that you'd love for us to explore, please do feel free to reach out. Our contact details will be on the screen. Now, until next time, goodbye. This program is brought to you by Thai Vision Media, helping stokvels and burial societies reach their goals.